One of the questions, or I guess bright spots you brought up, was that 2.5 billion people would be, their lives would be made longer. One of the things that's I think about is that today there's 6.8, 6.9, depending on who's counting the number of people on this planet, billion of people. What can the planet hold? What can we support? These medical advances are wonderful for you and I because we're here and we probably can afford it. The markets that are growing, 4 billion in Asia, 1 billion in Africa, will they be able to afford it? And are we focusing on our culture to benefit it? Or is it just a scientific wherewithal that we're just after? Or are we really trying to preserve ourselves at the expense of the world's population?
That's a secondary problem. The primary problem is your wife or your children dying when they can be prevented. You know, if it's a disease that's treatable, they have cancer, and it's a treatable cancer, are you going to say to the larger community, well, the larger community is better off if you don't live? Or do we try and tackle that issue as a secondary issue? Let's get to that point when it happens. But
yeah, no, I think when it gets personal, what they say is, it's a recession when someone else loses their job and a depression when you lose yours. And that's becoming very real for a lot of people right now. And it's the same way in medicine. If it's close to home, I mean, we in this country, in fact, most people anyway, are used to getting the best possible care, and we want it, and we're used to getting it. And it's funny how these philosophical arguments get thrown out the window, when it's somebody in your family. So I think it's a deeply complicated and important issue, especially globally. I've read numbers. You were asking what the planet can support. According to the UN, it's probably about 11 or 12 billion people, and we will probably hit that in another generation or so. And supposedly we'll level off and begin to drop backwards again. I don't know who makes these predictions. But yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time in Asia and Africa and places where it's we have hard enough lives here, but they have extraordinarily hard lives over there. And I can't imagine those people really wanting to add another 20 years of life on, an already difficult life. So I think we have to keep this in perspective. And I often wonder, literally, when I'm thinking philosophically, what is the point of all this? Do we really want to live forever? How long do we want to live? And sometimes I ask when I give a talk, I literally ask how long do people want to live at the beginning of the talk, and I give different answers. But a lifespan right now in the United States is around 80 years. And, is that enough? If you're healthy and you live to 100, would that be a good lifespan? And we're devoting an awful lot of time and energy to this question and resources. And yet, we can't really answer that basic question. So that's a kind of highfalutin answer, but I think it's something worth pondering, especially when healthcare costs $2.4 trillion and is going up.
You make an interesting point about quality of life, and it's actually, as you start to see the debate about medical outcomes heating up, and it's going to do so very, very quickly here, it becomes not just a question of economics, but in fact, certain treatments may be both more expensive and more invasive, and at the end of the day may actually decrease the quality of life for some patients in some circumstances. And so when we talk about lifespan, when we talk about population density, when we talk about all the I think, very complicated issues that feed into development of medical technologies, we have to really, at the end of the day, look at quality of life for on an individual basis and on a population basis. And I think it's going to be a much more difficult question to answer.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to volunteer to go out early, I'm not. Go ahead. There's sirtuin activators, these molecules that are being used during clinical trials right now to delay the onset of age-related diseases, Alzheimer's and diabetes. And these are very, very powerful drugs in that they're shifting the way we look at humanity, right, and the human existence. Every animal organism these drugs have been tested on live 40% longer, right? Whether it be a yeast, a worm, a fly, a mammal. So we're potentially within the next 10 years see human lifespans extend to 120 years, right? Add 30 to 40 years. And these people are going to be pre-diabetics that say, well, I don't want diabetes now. I know that at the age of 70, everybody in my family gets it. Well, I want to delay it till I'm 95. And so they're going to get their prescription for the sirtuin activators. They're going to take it. But lo and behold, they're going to live to 110, 120 bar getting hit by a car. So.
I might add that I've been tested for that. I've been tested for pretty much everything. And in fact, this is basically a gene that's a regulator gene. And as we get more finer tuned genetics, it seems that they're these sort of, I call them super genes. No scientists will call them that, but they seem to affect entire systems in the body. And in this case, it's our lifespan and other organisms. And what happens is this gene produces an enzyme. And I was tested for my level of that enzyme, and I'm 1,000 times higher than average. And this might be called a longevity enzyme, or at least a, as you said, age delay enzyme. And the catch is, though, that it has to be activated. It probably is active anyway, because I do come from a pretty long-lived family, and this might be one reason. But it's activated either by starvation, and it's there from an evolutionary standpoint to protect organisms when they're having times of privation, whether it's a mouse or a human. And it basically activates and causes all kinds of amazing things to happen in the cell. It's an antioxidant. It keeps parts of the cell in good repair. About 30 different things that scientists have discovered it does. The other way you activate it is something called resveratrol, which is in red wine. And you probably have all read about that. The problem is you have to drink about 1,000 glasses of wine a day for it to have any effect. And I started losing it around 200 or 300 glasses. But this company does have this pill, and they're the ones that tested me. It's called Sirtus, and it's based in Cambridge, Mass. And they tested me for this, and I keep trying to get that dang pill from them, because I want to activate my enzymes.
There's another way to do it, though. You basically, if you're trying to trigger the physiology of being in a bust period, because you go from boom to bust, food, no food, and you want to be able to survive that bust. So what you do is you find out how much you typically eat in a day,